Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Evening. How are you?
Baruch Hashem. Have a nice day.
Yeah, busy.
You're busy today, yeah. Get caught up, huh? Yeah,
I think.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, we have a minion in the backyard in my house. Min Chamar.
Oh, because you have still the family.
Yeah, whole family, all my family.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's beautiful, Alan. Tell me, Alan,
Yeah.
the wife of your partner, she's in bad shape, no?
She's not so good. She's not so good.
I saw her walking with one of the
With aid?
grandchildren, I think, a very tall
Yeah.
kid. But
Uh-huh.
she's walking with a very tall contraption, and her head is like this. She looks like a very old lady. Terrible.
Really?
I couldn't recognize her. My wife says, that's
Reckless, yeah.
Rex's wife.
What
I
a shame. What a shame. What a shame.
she's
Just, I
such
mean,
a nice lady. Such
oh, the wonderful. What she's physically she's okay. It's just that she, has the other problem. And that's what the problem, that's what it is.
what does she have? She has Alzheimer's.
Something like that. Something like that. Yeah, I guess so. I didn't exactly, it doesn't say it, but she's got full-time a 24-hour aide, and Jack is really pretty much tied down to the house all the time. He goes out a
Yeah,
little bit to learn and to shul, but he's
yeah.
pretty much homebound. He's been homebound with her. He's got to see to it. It's really a shame. When
Wow,
they have
wow.
the elder, when you get a little older, you want to enjoy your life. He's not retired, and so I'm just thinking more and more every day to retire completely. I don't know. I go down for a couple hours. Enough already. What do I don't know what to do. And yet what do I do home? I can learn a little bit, but well.
Yes, this is
All
Dr.
right,
Eckstein again. I need Dr. Shahidi. I'm Mr. Serrano. This is
All right.
okay. We're on Tes Amud Aleph. Rav Yochanan. Hadein Didan who that the measurement in Tveria, which measured in 8, it's the same as the measurement he used to have. Lama Karanatita. Why is it called an old measurement? Min begin to have a biyomi. Because it used to be small and now became larger. Istamid Aviziri, the Rav saw that it was small and became larger. Vistamid Aziri velo Aziri, that it was smaller and became larger. Now, Kamadahus, Kamu Shir Shal Kos. When we were talking about the Dalit Koises, what's the shear? Rabbi Yosef, B'Shem Rabbi Yosef ben Paz, Rabbi Yosef ben Bibi, B'Shem Rabbi Shmuel, Etzboim, 2 finger breaths, Al Etzboim by 2 finger breaths, Al Rum Etzba Umechza Ushlish Etzba, which is like 10, it works out to 7 cubic finger breaths. And by the way, a quarter of a log is about 4 ounces. Yavesh Kazayis, the Rabnos. A dried piece of wine that if you get to be chayiv for carrying it, there has to be a kazayis. Rabbanan de Kesar, Rav Yosef, Rabbi B'Shem Shmuel, Asid Rav Nosson, Rav Shimon held that Rav Nosson's shita is like Rav Shimon. Kamad Rav Shimon Amar Revius, that a revius, a quarter of a log of yayin drives to a kazayis. Ken Rav Nosson Revius l'chashi karish v'yobel kazayis. When a revius yayin dries up, coagulates, it becomes the size of a kazayis. Rav Simon b'Shem Rav Shua ben Levi Maisa befredis Rabbi Shemesa. There was a mule of Rabbi that died. V'tiaru as dama mishum nevela. They said the blood of this mule is not Tomei, but Tumas Nevela. Now, they understood that it had to do with, that it probably had to do with less than a certain amount. So up until what? Is it tahor, and beyond that is, when is it tummy? So Amr Lei Ad Revius tahor, that less than a quarter revius, what less than revius alog, the blood is tahor. Yoisrim revius tummy. But more than that, it's tummy. However, Vosh Rav Lezer al Deloy Chazer Lei. Rav Lezer was upset he didn't answer him directly. Rav Simon Shmuas Rav Bibi. Rav Bibi had told over this story. Masni Adei Nuvden told over what happened. Armele Rav Yitzchak Bar Bisna Kahana Ad Revius Tor Yoshmi Kan Tome. He said the same in Allah. Less than Revius it's Tahar, more than Revius it's Tome. Ubot, but he kicked him. Armele Rav Zrika begin to Sharlach Ad Boy, but honestly, because he asked you a valid question, you kick him? Armele begin to Lavi Daiti. I kicked him because I was in a bad mood. Kibiyat Mebe. Why was he in a bad mood? Rav Chanan, in the Tochacha, it says your life will be hanging. Someone who buys wheat and he stores it for the whole year because he doesn't own any land to grow it. So he has to buy all of his food. And it's a question, is he going to have enough to last him? That's a further pasuk. That's somebody who buys from like a wholesaler, a middleman. Somebody who buys his bread from a baker. In each one of these cases, that's why his mind was not at ease. And that's why he kicked him. Because he relies on a baker. Now, Umau Kedon, how do we paskin regarding this? How much of the blood of a mule makes it tor versus tame? Rav Yeshua Msoira Aldam Nevela Shu Tor. The Yeshua Msoira said that blood of a nevela, bichlal, whether no matter how much it is, it doesn't have the ability to be metame like the basar of a nevela. So the Gemara Ma'u Tor Mila'achshir. Maybe when he meant tar, because we know there are 7 liquids that are machshir, dried food to be mekabel tumah: water, wine, milk, honey, right? Dam, but not this kind of dam. Aval Thomas metama, but there's no raya that this kind of blood will not be metame. However, tamon taninon, we learn in the Mishnah, dama sheretz, right? The shmona shrotzim, the carcass of a shmona sheretz is metame. Now, what about the dam of a sheretz? So the Mishnah says the sheretz is dam, metame is like its basar, but ve'eno machshir. But strange, it does not machshir something to be makabel tumah. Ve'en lana kiyotzabu, and it is so unusual. It's the only example of this, that even though it creates tumah as a liquid, it doesn't be machshir it. We learn from there that in all other cases, if the liquid does not machshir something to makabel tumah, then it also doesn't create any tumah. So since we learned that the blood of a mule is not machshir something makabel tumah, so it doesn't have tumah b'chlal. So the Gemara says, On Rav Yossi, pligi batrein amayroin. No, so the Gemara says, Bishir tumas or shadama matami kapsar. Perhaps when we say that there's nothing like it, it doesn't mean like the way you're learning. Means the amount required for it to be makabel tuma. Because remember, a sheretz is only matame kisaora, the size of a lentil bean. So that's what they were saying. There's no thing like it, but perhaps there's no raya that the blood of a mule is not matame. Maybe it is matame. On Rabbi Yossi pligi b'trein amayroin. Machlokes amayroin chad amar tamei chad amar tar. One says that the blood of a mule is tar. One says it's tamei. Manda amar tamei Rabbi Yehuda. Umanda amar tar Rabbi Yosef ben Soira. And Rav Avuda de'ema achted Rav Yehuda amar lei Rav Avduma de min nachutza v'yeus. It's correct. Rabbi Yehuda marayna de ben Nesoah hava. Rabbi Yehuda taught the house of Rebbe these dinim. And Rabbi Yehuda says that up until a revius, it's Tor, but more than that, it's Tameh, and that's the din. Then the Mishnah mentioned certain things when a person goes in to collect the Trumas Halishka, his pants should not have any hems. We have to make sure that the person is not suspected of stealing. So, Tony Rabbi Shmuel, Kavetz lo yitram, somebody with curly hair should not go in there. Ne'achshad, people think that he's going to hide money in his hair. Tony Agizbarni Musafskin Bekilkalin. The treasurers would untangle a person's hair to make sure there's their money there. Tani, midborn ayu imo mishashu midabrin ayu imo mishashu nichnas achashu yotze v'imale pune maya. They would talk with the person going in because they were concerned that the guy would stick some coins into his mouth. So by making sure, or they would fill his mouth with water to make sure that he's not putting coins in his mouth. Amrav Tanchuma, Mibnei Bracha. The reason they put water in, because when they gave the Trumas Halishka, they would make a bracha. So and they couldn't make the bracha with the mouth full with water. The bracha is only midrabanan. But the other pshat is that they had the water in there to make sure that he's not stealing any coins in his mouth. Rosh Shmuel bar Nachman Shem Rav Yonason, that the same concept of v'yu nekiyim, that you shall be clean in the eyes of everybody, both HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. So this is repeated b'Torah v'Neviim of Ksivim. Matzanu sh'adam tzarech latzes yidei abrios, that a person has to be honest with his other fellow men. K'derech tzarech latzes yidei makom, the same way that he has to be honest in front of Hashem. B'Torah minayin d'chsiv yisem nekiyim Hashem u'Yisrael. B'Neviim minayin d'chsiv elokim Hashem v'Yisrael hu yada. B'Ksuvim minayin d'chsiv u'motza chen v'seichel tov ben elokim v'adam. Gamliel Zuga, that's the name of a person. Shol Rabbi Yosef Rabbon. Ezeu Amasa Shebekulam. Which is the pasuk that is the sort of the clearest? Amar Lev Yisam Nekiyim Hashem Yisrael. The pasuk of Yisam Nekiyim. which is in the Torah. Mishnah. Shel beis Rabbi Gamliel haya nichnas v'shiklo ben etzbos of v'zork lifnei hatorim. When the house of Rabbi Gamliel would send their machzis shekel, they made sure that they would do it when the guy was drawing the coins, to make sure that the coin would go into the basket that they knew for sure korbanos would be bought, because any coins that are left that have not been withdrawn can be used for other purposes. So they were makbid, they wanted the coins to be used for the korbanos. The guy who took the money out in the basket, he would first ask the bezdin, etroim, should I withdraw? They would say 3 times. That he was authorized to remove the funds. And then they did it. Torah Misarishona. Remember, we did it 3 different times, before Pesach, before Shavuos, before Pesach. Torah Misarishona. V'chipa b'kadbalios. After he withdrew the money in the first basket, he covered the other coins with leather, so that there's no distinct, that they knew which was shirayim in the first basket and which was new. The same thing, ashniya v'chipa b'kadvalios. When they did the second draw right before Shavuos, they covered the remainder with leather. Ashlishis lo haya mechape. After he took the third, he didn't cover. Now, why did he cover in the first place? He would forget, and he would draw from stuff that had already been drawn from. Period. So Torah Misarishon Shem Eretz Yisrael. The guy had an intention when he took the first basket. Those korbanos would go for the people who live close to the Beis Hamikdash, because Mistama, those coins came first, then from Bavel. Hashniel Hashem Krachim Amukafin Law. And when he drew the second, it didn't Eretz Yisrael, but bigger cities that were further away. Vashlish Hashem Bavel Hashem Madai Hashem Medina Rachoikos, because by the time Sukkot rolled around, it was another 6 months. By that time, maybe the coins had made it there, so that's why he had in mind those people. Now, Shel Beis Rav Gamliel, I don't understand. Let's say you had 2 piles, and you give truma from one of the piles. It covers the other pile. So why did Rabbi Gamliel not just throw the coins in? He's going to be part of it. So he knocked the ruach lahem shloye korban miskarvel mishlen tchila. They were mocked, but they wanted to make sure that the first korbanos, they were mishtate for the first korbanos. Tani, we learn a Mishnah. Shomat esakat bilios. Once they removed the leather covering the remaining coins, nasu kulon shirayim. Then there's a din that the other coins now are shirayim, which means the truma was already taken. Anything that comes later, after they had done the withdrawing of that first group, would be new shkolim. But after the third, everything else is shirayim. They're all shirayim. And there's a difference, because shirayim was used for other purposes, like to build the city, to build mikvos and things like that, not necessarily for korbanos. Tana, shlishis yaisa ashira. The third withdrawal was the wealthiest. Remember, we said that from Bavel, the shluchim that would come would exchange the coins for a golden coin rather than schlep 10 bags of silver. They would take 1 coin of gold. So it was a very wealthy withdrawing, the third one. Tani Thomas Arishon Shem Eretz Yisrael. He withdrew the first group for Eretz Yisrael. L'Shem Kol Yisrael, and for all of the Jews. Shmi L'Shem Krachim Amukafim. L'Shem Kol Yisrael. He always had in mind all the Jews, but he had some specific other places in mind. Hashlish L'Shem Bavel U'Madai L'Shem Medina Sarachoykos. Well, the same call Yisrael. Tani, we learn in the Mishnah, Natal min Rishoina, when he took from the first basket, Aval Pishiyesh Rishoina, even there were some coins left, when it comes time to do the second, Noitam Nashniya, he would take first from the Shniya and only go back, as we'll see how he does, to the first basket later. And then Noitam Nashniya, Aval Pishiyesh Bishniya, after he did the first drawing, they bought korbanos, and then the new coins come, and it's time to take the third basket. Any coins that were left in the second basket, they wouldn't use. They would use the new shkolim. Shalma shlishis. Now, once they finished using all of the coins in the third basket, then choizer lishniya. Then they would go to the second basket and use the remnant coins. Shalma shniya choizer l'rishoina. Shalmu shloishtan. Now, let's say they finished all the baskets. They would have to ask Klal Yisrael to give more money if they needed it. Rab Meir Omer no shirayim. You can go to the coins that have not been withdrawn in baskets. Shahai Rab Meir Omer moyalim b'shirayim. Shema yitztarchu lahen b'sof. That you're only moyal if it was due to the Beis Hamikdash, if it was going to be a korban, if you used the money. Now, Rav Meir held that you were moyal b'shirayim because eventually you might have to come to use it. If you didn't have enough money in the first 3 trumos, you might have to go back to the shirayim. This leads to famous Mishnah of Rav Pinchas ben Yoyer. This is because we said a person should be v'yisem nekiyim me'Hashem Yisrael. So in the various, Rav Pinchas ben Yoyer is going to give us a 10-step process of spiritual elevation. And of course, the Sefer Mesilas Yesharim that the Ramchal wrote is based on the Mishnah of Rav Pinchas ben Yoyer. Zrizos is zeal. Mevila de Nikias leads to cleanliness. Nikias, mevila de tahara. Cleanliness leads to tahara. Tahara mevila de kedusha. Kedusha mevila de anava. Humbleness. Anava mevila de yiras chet. That leads to fear of sin. Yiras chet mevila de chasidus. Chasidus mevila de ruach hakodesh. Ruach hakodesh mevila de tchias hamesim. And tchias mevila de Eliyahu zacholato, which will come through Eliyahu Hanavi. Which will be the great day that Hashem reveals Himself, Bo Hayom HaGadol V'Hanoira, after Tchias HaMesim. Now, what are the psukim underlying the Mishnah of Rav Pinchas ben Yoyer? Zrizus b'videl nekin t'chsiv v'chila mikaper. That means when you complete something, someone who's enthusiastic completes his task, that'll lead to kapara. Nikias, cleanliness, mevila de tahara. That leads to the chsiv, the chiper alea kohen, the tahera. Once you have kapara, it leads to tahara. Tahara mevila kedusha. The chsiv, the tiaro, the kidsho. Right? First there's tahara, then there's kedusha. Kedusha mevila de anava, the chsiv. Hicho amar ram v'nisa, shochen ad v'kadosh shemo kedusha, maram v'kadosh eshkon, then v'etakalo shval ruach. Yet, even though there's kedusha, there's a lowliness of spirit. Then this anivus, anava mevel de yiras chet, fear of sin. T'chsiv, ekev anava yiras Hashem. The heel of Anova is Yiras Hashem. Then Yiras Chet Mevila de Chasidus. Chasidus refers to doing things lifnei Mishras Adin. There's din, and there's going beyond din. Ichsiv, V'chesed Hashem me'olam ve'ad olam al yireyav. So you see the Chasidus is above Yira. Chasidus Mevila de Ruach HaKodesh. Ichsiv, Az dibarta b'chazon l'chasidecha. And chazon refers to nevuah or ruach hakodesh, like chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos. Ruach hakodesh mevil detchias hamesim. Ichsat tichsiv v'nasati ruchi bachem v'chisem. In the haftorah that we're going to read this Shabbos, or no, sorry. Normally, Shabbos Chol HaMoed. We're not going to have Shabbos Chol HaMoed because Shabbos is Yontif. So Shabbos Chol HaMoed Pesach, we read the dry bones, that the dry bones are going to be vivified. So it says, I'm going to give my Ruach and you will come alive. So you see, Ruach HaKodesh and Tchias HaMesim go together. Tchias HaMesim Aviv Eliozer Cholatov D'chsiv, the pasuk we read last Shabbos. That means, what's the purpose of Tchias HaMesim? Because we're all going to be judged again. You have a judgment when you die, but then there's a final judgment, says the Ramban, that everyone, their neshama is going to be put back into their body, and they're going to be stood up, and there's going to be one big Yom Adin. That's the Yom Bo HaGadol Vanor. Torah B'Shem Rav Meir Kol Misha Koveh Beretz Yisrael, somebody who moves to Israel and makes his residence there. Umedaber B'Lashon HaKodesh, speaks Hebrew. V'oichel Peirosav B'Tahara, and he eats his food B'Tahara. V'kor Kriyas Shema B'Boiker, v'er reads Kriyas Shema. Yehem V'usar Shebein Olam Habo. That guarantees that it'll be better than Olam Habo. So the Aliyah departments should have this on a poster. One of the reasons to make Aliyah is to be guaranteed a spot in Olam Haba. Okay, so we'll call back at 8:00 for the Tzur Rabbanan Shir.
Okay.
Shkach.